Hello, welcome to this online course presented by Hillsdale College. My name is Larry Arnn. I work at the college, and this course is about ancient Christianity. I happen to be an adherent of that religion, as the college is. But in order to understand the religion we claim, and I claim, you need to step outside it and see how different it is from other things like it. This course is called Ancient Christianity, and it is an ancient religion and a modern religion. It has peculiar modern attributes even when it was born in the ancient world. So I'm going to survey those a little bit. Now, the course is being taught by a great expert, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, Ken Calvert. He's in our history department. He teaches ancient history. For a long time, he ran our Hillsdale Academy, and he was brilliant at that. But I decided not to let him keep doing that because he's too good a historian and he needs to be teaching college students. And you. So what is strange about Christianity? Well, the answer is everything. It starts with a story about a baby, a human baby, one baby. And it's the story of his life. His life is miraculous, but also very ordinary. He's born in a village in Palestine, in Israel, and he was a carpenter. He's just born to ordinary people. He doesn't have any title or any wealth, except he is a kind of an aristocrat by birth. He descends all the way from Abraham through David, the greatest of the Israelite kings. And that's, real credentials. He didn't go around with any titles or anything, and he didn't inherit any money, but it is said in the New Testament that he descends that way. And that's the best possible way to descend if you're a Jew. His father was a carpenter. He lived in Nazareth. He started his mission when he was about 30, and it lasted about 3 years, and then they killed him. And they killed him in a most gruesome way. And they killed him because he claimed to be God. That was the part that's hard to swallow. And we know a lot about all that. That story is told in more than one place. Jesus was born under the authority of the Roman Empire, and he was condemned under Roman law. And so there are three things, not just Rome, that form a backdrop to the life and career of Jesus that are necessary to it, in my opinion. And Rome is one of them. But the oldest and the first is Israel, Judaism. If you read what Christians call the Old Testament and Jews call the Bible, the story of the Jewish people is a singular thing, and it is very ancient. Jesus lived 2,000 years ago. Abraham lived 3,500 years ago. The Jewish story was old when Jesus comes along. And that story is singular in the ancient world. There's not really anything like that either. When God keeps making covenants, deals, pacts with various leaders of the Jewish people, he has a deal with the Jews. And the deal is, put in the covenant with Abraham, I will be your God and you will be my people. And then the weird thing happens. And this will be a blessing to all the peoples on the face of the earth. Religion was very particular, every other religion at that time. The gods of the early Greek cities were the gods of the families in the cities. And the city gods were the ancestors of the leading families. And they kept a fire burning in their house all the time. Eternal fire, that's hard to do in the ancient world. And they sacrificed part of every meal for these ancestors. And that means if you were Spartan, your gods were the ancestors of your city, of your family, and the leaders of your city. And you didn't care anything about the Athenian gods. Well, here's an odd thing. The Jewish people are given these laws on Mount Sinai, and a very detailed set of laws, too, not just the Ten Commandments. That's the beginning. Those laws are given only to the Jewish people. The claim is that The God of the Hebrews is the God of everything, the maker of everything, the thing that goes on eternally. And sooner or later, we're all going to have to deal with him. But the law he gives just to the Jews, just to his people. And it's a good way, and not just the Christian way, to read the Bible, as the Old Testament, as the Jews carrying a message for the rest of us. It turns out it's very hard work being the chosen people, and you get into a lot of trouble because of that, and you're not worthy of it. And they have this transcendent God, and he has picked them. So Jesus comes out of that people. You can see how it would come to be seen that he was an extension of the providence of that people, that God had a plan. He is God, by the way. And so now everybody's included. God doesn't just give a law just to the Jews now. It actually comes along a bit later than the classic, quite a bit later, than the classic story of the Hebrews and their law, that the Greeks come along. And the Greeks discover a philosophy that is seeking the truth universally, all times and all places. The dramatic turn in Plato's Republic is when a young man named Glaucon, who is Plato's brother, says to Socrates, "Show me, then, that justice is good for its own sake. Show me that it's good even if the person who practices it suffers for the practice of it, even if the unjust prosper. Show me that it's a good and a true thing." Now, do you see why that would be a preparation for Christianity? Because Jesus is everybody's God. He doesn't give a law, but the standard of right is ultimately residing in and coming from him. And so people had to learn to think universally. And that is the seedbed in which Christianity has grown. And then there are the Romans. And what the Romans did, they didn't actually unite the whole world, but they united most of the known world and all of the parts that they thought were important, except perhaps Persia. When the apostles, who are the followers of Jesus, begin their mission after the death of Jesus, and by the way, think how curious it is that he's been executed, and yet they remain loyal to him and think that he's still alive, and that all of the things that he told them to do, they have to do, just as much as if he were still with them. Once a thing like that grows up in the Roman Empire, there's one system of law, and these apostles and disciples, they can go anywhere, and they do, and it gets all over the place. Most of the New Testament is letters written by the apostles, and the letters are written to people in localities where they went and evangelized. And you could do that in Rome, and you weren't really crossing international borders. The idea of there being one law for the whole world, that depends on the Jews and the Greeks and the Romans, those three things. And that prepared the way for Jesus. And so it's very exciting, because think what had to be done after Jesus is crucified. They had to invent the practices of a religion. We have the New Testament. It's not very long. It's not like the Old Testament. It's not like pages and pages of rules and laws. But the pages and pages of the rules and laws that exist for the Jews still exist. And Jesus, in some sense, has changed the status of them. And so they have to work out a new system, new practices of worship. The Christian worship goes back to Jesus. Some of it's copied from the Jews. And it's standard, actually, in any liturgical church. And there are, various Catholics, the Anglicans, that's what I am, the Lutherans. Their services are rather similar. And that's because these apostles are figuring out how to carry on preaching the gospel and worshiping God. And all that had to be done, and had to be done pretty fast, actually. But, by 350, roughly, AD, the Emperor Constantine, one of the last strong Roman emperors, becomes a Christian. And that means now it's everywhere. Christianity spread that fast. And of course, now today, it is a message one can read and understand. We're called to do that. The name for Jesus in the Gospel of John is the Word. He's what God has to say. And this story is an exciting story. And oddly enough to me, it adds to the plausibility of the story that it's so strange. C.S. Lewis writes this, if you were going to just make up a religion, would anybody think to make this one up? You can learn, as a historical matter, some things that really happened and what we know about them. And as a matter of faith, if you're a Christian, or if you're thinking about being a Christian, you can learn where all that comes from. And I hope you enjoy the course very much.